This is your green pig grow talking on your screen. And here we want to know how we can stop our pig from becoming stunty or look like a kwashoko. There are some pigs that will look like kwashoko is attacking them. Or most time you will see some pig that will be very lean. They will not gain fat. They will not look good. And sometimes they will be like dogs full of air. And it's not nice if you look at them. Why can we stop, or how can we stop our pig from looking that way? Yes, this is what we're going to discuss briefly. I can say how we can stop our pig from looking stunty. Okay, when we want to narrate about or discuss about why our pig is not looking healthy and good, most of the problems start from the piglets. Most of the problems start from the piglet, and most time it is the piglet that usually look stunty. Yes, and most of the time when they have grown up, they will not still be looking fine, and sometimes they will take a lot of months before they grow healthy or look nice. What is the cause of all this? Because I have visited some farms and see some stunty piglet. Some of the piglet, they will be a little bit bigger than piglets, a little bit bigger than piglet, like some young gilts. But the owner will just tell you that this pig is up to a year or 9 months or so, and you will be surprised to see the size of the pig, very small and very thin. So what can we do to stop all that or to control something of such nature? Well, the problem is that the number one problem is that seeing these issues usually started from the piglet, seeing the problem usually started from the piglet, it is obvious that sickness at that early stage may be the major factor why most of the piglet will remain stunty for a long time, even after when most effort have been put on it in order to improve his health. We discover that most of the problems started from the time that they are piglet. Yes, and these problems are usually associated with a sickness. For example, if your pig develop hernia, the pig will never grow. It will remain stunty for a very long time, and this hernia usually develop in the early stage. That is when the pig is young, sometime after wean, or even the time they are still sucking the mother's breast, they can develop this disease. This may result in your pig remaining very stunty for a long time. Another disease like if your piglet, develop diarrhea and you cannot control the diarrhea in time, and the pig managed to survive with that diarrhea, you discover that the pig will remain stunty for a long time before it later improve. What I mean by remain stunty is that no matter the age of the pig, it will not grow as fast as those who did not have that disease. And most time they may remain stunty and do not look fine for a long time. So that is why I say the problem usually starts from the piglet. Yes. Another sickness is that if your pig develops some of the illness like having red spots in the body or being attacked by flies and many other insects or some bacteria, and you are not able to treat them of that sickness in that early stage, and they manage to survive and struggle with the sickness, they will not also grow. They will remain stunty. And most time, overdose of drugs that we inject our pig or our piglet in that early stage, if we give them overdose of drugs, most of the antibiotics we give to our little piglet is not recommended for their health, because sometimes they are too young. And even though we want to inject them these antibiotics, we must be very considerate of doses that is injected to them. Otherwise, we discover that our pig or our piglet will start to remain stunty after excessive injection of bacteria due to one sickness or the other. So those few reasons can make our piglet to remain stunty, and from there, it will take a lot of time for that same pig to grow or duplize. Apart from sickness, the way we feed our pig may help them contribute to the reason why they will remain stunty for a long time. Well, with the sickness we talk about and the bad way of feeding, this may contribute immensely to the reason why our piglet will remain stunty. And we know that when our piglet remains stunty or do not grow fine or do not feed fine, that means it will take a lot of time before we will grow that same pig to a point that they will be sold off for food. They will remain in our farm for a long time. Sometimes they will waste a lot of food. They will not grow, which is not good for you as a farmer. We do not need such in our farm. We want our pig to grow fine and grow healthy. So what we got to do is that we have to control the sickness and the drugs, and also how we feed our piglets, started from that winter stage till they grow up. If you can feed your pig fine from that winter stage up, discover that that is how they will keep growing. But if you make one mistake or the other during the time that they are young, you may have a lot of issue making the pig to grow fast. Yes, most of the time we talk about how we can help our pig to grow fast, or what we got to give our pigs so that they will grow fast. All these things you need to start when they are still breastfeeding. Yes, before you wean them, you got to take a lot of things into consideration. When you take these things into consideration, it will be easier for you to be able to have your pig to grow faster, and you make your money. Well, that was your green pig grow, and giving some tips on how you can raise your pig without the pig looking stunty or lean or whatsoever. Well, if you love this video, please consider subscribing.